Indianapolis Colts fans, I have been sitting here thinking about this team, and honestly, the wait for football season is officially driving me crazy. Just today, a significant update regarding our upcoming training camp schedule dropped that signals the end of an era for our franchise in Westfield. There is a specific layer of nostalgia and strategic planning attached to this final run at Grand Park that we absolutely need to unpack together. The more details emerge, the harder it is to ignore the weight of this transition. Smash that like button, subscribe, and drop your city below. Let's get into it. The Indianapolis Colts have officially finalized their 2026 training camp schedule at Grand Park in Westfield, marking the 8th and final year this facility will host our team before the lease expires. For 8 seasons, Grand Park has become the heart and soul of our summer, serving as the proving ground where we watched our roster evolve through high expectations and rebuilding phases alike. Rookies report on July 27th, followed by veterans on July 28th, with the first on-field work beginning July 29th. We are looking at a packed schedule featuring Family Day on July 31st, Back Together Weekend on August 1st, and the vital Kicking the Stigma event on August 19th. That matters because this camp concludes with 2 high-stakes joint practices against the Atlanta Falcons on August 19th and 20th ahead of their August 22nd preseason showdown. And honestly, this news feels bittersweet for the entire fan base. We have grown accustomed to the sights of Westfield, turning every sweltering afternoon into a celebration of football for the Shoe. Let's be real, while we are excited for the next chapter of our franchise, the end of this era signals a closing of a significant chapter for our local community. Here is where it gets interesting, as fans are already scrambling to secure their $5 tickets for the themed sessions while non-special days remain free for the public. Now here's the thing. Even with new leadership across the league like Ben Johnson in Chicago or Robert Saleh in Tennessee, we remain focused on our own internal progression during these final weeks at our current home. It is a strange feeling to prepare for our last ride at Grand Park, but as Indianapolis Colts fans, we will show up in full force to support our squad one last time before moving on, because we are always ready to shout for the Shoe. As Indianapolis Colts fans, we have enjoyed the pristine facilities at Grand Park for 8 years, but this final residency arrives because the franchise is prioritizing a localized, state-of-the-art training environment closer to their Indianapolis headquarters to maximize recovery efficiency. And honestly, this transition mirrors the league-wide shift towards centralized sports science, much like how the Titans under GM Mike Borgonzi and HC Robert Saleh are currently restructuring their own developmental pipelines. Let's be real, managing player health is the primary driver here, especially when you consider our recent injury history, with key starters missing an average of 4.2 games each over the last 3 seasons. We have seen this type of move succeed before when teams transition to permanent on-site practice bubbles, significantly reducing soft tissue strain during high-intensity sessions. That matters because front office leaders are surely obsessing over the championship windows closing around the NFL, watching rivals like the Bears under Ben Johnson or the Vikings under Nolan Teasley sharpen their edges. Here is where it gets interesting as the coaching staff views these final weeks in Westfield as a tactical bridge to solidify chemistry before the brutal gauntlet of the regular season. They need these joint practices against Atlanta to stress test our depth chart without the immediate pressure of a Week 1 kickoff. Now here's the thing, this is an emotional farewell to our Westfield era, yet it is a calculated gamble on long-term durability over short-term atmosphere. By streamlining logistics and focusing on specialized recovery technology, the organization hopes to replicate the success seen in organizations like Buffalo under Joe Brady or New Orleans under Kellen Moore. We are closing a chapter at Grand Park, but for the sake of the Lombardi Trophy, this team knows the future requires innovation. For the Shoe. As Indianapolis Colts fans, we finally have our dates for the final summer at Grand Park, and honestly, this marks the end of an era for our squad. That matters because establishing rhythm before the season starts is vital for a team looking to reclaim the AFC South crown. This schedule immediately impacts our depth chart, as rookies reporting on July 27th will have extra time to learn the playbook before veterans arrive. With joint practices against Atlanta, our coaching staff can finally test our rotation against external talent, which is critical for identifying who earns those final roster spots. Let's be real, these sessions are about more than just drills because they sharpen our focus for high-stakes matchups. Here's where it gets interesting, as those joint practices against the Falcons prepare us perfectly for a critical early season test. Looking at the landscape, we have to keep an eye on our rivals, especially the Tennessee Titans, who have revamped their organization with Robert Saleh as head coach and Mike Borgonzi as GM. their rise puts immense pressure on our playoff path. Now here's the thing. While others like the Bears under Ben Johnson or the Vikings led by Nolan Teasley are making noise, our path remains focused on consistency. We need to be ready because the competition across the league is fiercer than ever, with guys like Mike Vrabel in New England and Kellen Moore in New Orleans pushing the pace. If we can dominate these training camp sessions and solidify our chemistry, we significantly boost our standing against the division and our overall playoff chances. We are building a contender, and it all starts in Westfield for one last time as we prepare to show the world exactly what we mean when we scream, "For the shoe." On one side, the move away from Grand Park represents a necessary evolution for this team to modernize its facilities and consolidate operations back at the Indiana Farm Bureau Football Center. Staying in Westfield has been fun, but the logistics of transporting the entire organization back and forth every summer are increasingly inefficient in the modern NFL landscape. But on the other side, we are losing a unique tradition that fostered a special connection between the players and the community. Grand Park offered an accessible, family-friendly atmosphere that felt distinctively ours, and losing that home field advantage during the summer could diminish the fan experience. Here is where it gets interesting because media across the league are comparing this transition to shifts made by franchises like the Tennessee Titans under Robert Saleh and Mike Borgonzi, noting that centralized camps often sharpen internal focus for a team hungry to win. Critics argue that moving camp away from the public could make the Colts feel more detached from the city they represent. That matters because the synergy we built at Westfield was genuine. Let's be real, other teams like the Chicago Bears under Ben Johnson or the Buffalo Bills led by Joe Brady have faced similar logistical dilemmas, yet they managed to keep their fan bases engaged. Personally, I think this is a bittersweet but inevitable step for our franchise. While I will miss the nostalgia of those summer days at the park, we need to prioritize top-tier preparation if we want to compete with the elite coaching staffs currently being built in Minnesota or New England. If this change keeps our roster fresher and more disciplined heading into the regular season, then I am all in for the sake of winning a championship. For the shoe. As we prepare to close the chapter on our time at Grand Park, it signifies that the Indianapolis Colts are entering a pivotal transition phase aimed at modernizing our entire football operations facility to match the elite standards seen across the league. That matters because a revamped home base will provide the resources needed to compete against evolving divisional rivals like Robert Saleh and Mike Borgonzi in Tennessee, while keeping pace with a landscape featuring heavy hitters like Ben Johnson in Chicago and Mike Vrabel in New England. Let's be real, you should feel incredibly optimistic right now because this upcoming camp serves as the final foundation for a roster that is clearly ready to contend for a championship title. Here is where it gets interesting, as this schedule is packed with high-intensity joint practices against the Atlanta Falcons that will provide a perfect litmus test before the real games begin. And honestly, having Kellen Moore and Nolan Teasley shaping other rosters around the league just proves that our internal preparation must be sharper than ever to stay ahead of the curve. Now, here's the thing. With David Blau and Joe Brady also masterminding new offensive schemes across the NFL, we need our final Westfield summer to be the most productive one in franchise history. Do you think hosting the Falcons for 2 straight days of joint practices is the perfect way to test our secondary before the season opener? Make sure you head over to Colts.com to snag those tickets early because these sessions will fill up fast. If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. For the shoe, I'll see you in the next one.